Hello, this is Lucas, and in this video I'm going to be going over conditions in JavaScript. So a condition is just a statement that evaluates if a condition that we pass in is true. Now if it's true, it's going to execute a piece of code. And if it's not true, well then it's not going to execute that piece of code. So let's say we have an example. Let's say we create a new variable called age, and we equal this to, let's do 22. Okay, and now we want to check what this value is for age. So we know that it's 22, but let's just say that we don't know the value for this and we want to check it. So what we can do is we can create an if statement. So if we do if, then in brackets, what we'll do is age is equal to, let's do 22. And then let's add some curly brackets around here. And let's just add an alert. And in this alert, we will have something like, you are 22 years old. Okay, so the way that conditions work is this if statement here will check if this condition is true. Now, if this condition is true, we will execute this piece of code. So you can see that we have set age to 22. So whenever we check this condition, we will check if age is equal to 22. We can see that age is equal to 22, so this will output a true. And whenever this outputs true, the code that is inside these curly brackets will get executed. So we'll just have an alert here. So we go back to our page, we can refresh this, and you can see that we get the alert, you are 22 years old, that we have specified inside of this if statement. Okay, now let's say that this is false. So let's change this value to 21. So now you can see that this is going to be false because age does not equal to 22 because age is 21. And whenever we refresh this, you can see nothing happens. And the reason why nothing happens is we check if the age is 22, it's not 22, so it's false, so this code will never get executed. Okay, but what we can do is we can have an else if statement. And then we will just have we'll do the exact same thing here. So we'll just add else if, and then we'll do age is equal to 21. And then I will just copy this piece of code here. And we'll do this. So the way that an else if works is if the first condition before it is false, so if this is false, then it will move on to the next condition and it will check if this is true. And then if this is true, then this piece of code will get executed. So if we go back, refresh this, you can see now instead of getting you are 22 years old, we get you are 21 years old because age is equal to 21. Okay, so just to go over this again, this condition has to be true. If it's false, then this will get skipped. And if there is an else statement after this, then we will check if this condition is true or not. And then if this is true, then we will print out this code. Now, let's say that both of these are false. So let's say the age is 20. Well, then what's going to happen is this is false. Okay, we are going to check if age is equal to 22. Okay, well, it's not equal to 22. So we're not going to execute this piece of code. But because we have an else if condition after this, we will check if this is true. You can see this is also not true because age is 20. So age does not equal to 21. So once again, this code will not get executed and it will just move on. Okay. Now we can have multiple of these else if statements. So we can do else if, we can do age is equal to, let's say 42. You know, we can have a code in here. We can have another one saying else if age is equal to 19, for example. Then we can have more code in here. And we can have as many else if statements as we want. Now think of an if condition as a snake. So the if is the head, the else if is the entire body, and then we have one more, which is the else. Now the else is like the tail, it's the very end of our if, else if, and else statement. It's like the end of our snake. It's the tail. So I'll just remove this for now. And what else does is, if all of these conditions before else are false, so you can see age is equal to 20, and then we check if age is equal to 21 or 22, which is false. Then we check if age is equal to 21, which is also false. And then when we have an else statement, if all of the previous if statements or conditions are false, then whatever code is in here will get executed. So we don't have to pass in a condition. We just pass in anything else. So let's say we do an alert, and then we'll say you are not 22 or 21 years old. Okay. Now we can quickly run this, and you can see we get an alert saying you are not 22 or 21 years old. So this gets executed. This gets executed because the previous statements are false. So it's like we start off at the head, and then we just keep moving down. So this is false, and because all of these are false, we will execute this piece of code over here. Now we can use any condition in here. So for example, we can have if age is greater than 22, or we can have something like if age is if age is less than 22, or if age is greater than 21, or we can have something like if age is less or equal to 22. You know, we can have multiple conditions in our condition. Okay, we can also use strings. So for example, instead of having age, let's say we have name. We'll equal this to Lucas, and what we can do here is we can do if name is equal to, let's say, John. Well, this is false, so then we'll move on to the next else if, and then let's say in here we have something like name is equal to Lucas. Okay, so let's just change this in here. So I just changed the alerts. You can see we are firstly checking if the name is equal to John. Then we check if the name is equal to Lucas. And then we have this else statement here. If name is not equal to John, or if it's not equal to Lucas, we'll just execute this code here. So we can refresh this, and you'll see that we get a alert saying your name is Lucas, because this was false, but this was true. So we execute this piece of code here, and we skip this piece of code here because this condition was true. This else statement here will only get executed if all of the conditions above that are false. Now we can also pass in a pre-evaluated boolean, okay, into our if statement. So let's say that we have a year, for example, and the year is equal to 2023. Okay. Now what we can do is we can create another let. So we'll do let, and we'll do a cond for condition. And what we can do is we can equal this to, and then in brackets, what we'll do is we'll do year is equal to 2023. And if this statement here is true, then cond will become a boolean and its value will be true. And then what we can do is we can just pass this in. So then we can do if cond, and then we can just have an alert saying something like true, for example. And then whenever we reload this, you can see that we get an alert of true, because this condition here is true. So we store that value true in this variable here, and then what we're doing here is we are checking if this is true. And because this is true, because this is a boolean and its value is true, well then this code here will get executed. Now we can pass in any block of code that we want inside of our if statements. So for example, what we can do is, let's say we'll create a variable called access. We'll do access allowed. Then we will have another, let's say we do let age is equal to, let's say we do 19, for example. And then if inside of the if statement, what we can do is we can do age is greater than 17, so they're 18 or above. And then what we can do is we can do access allowed is equal to true, and then we can do else access allowed is equal to false, and then we can just have an alert here, and all we have to do is just pass in the access allowed, and just like that we have assigned a variable within our if else condition, which is true. So you can see what we are doing here is we have age, which is 19. We check if that age is above 17, so if it's 18 or above, and if it is, then we do access allowed is equal to true. Else, if their age is 17 or below, then we'll do access allowed is false. So this is how we can actually assign values to variables inside of our if else conditions. Now what we can do is we can shorten all of that into just one line. Okay, so let's say we create a variable. Let's say we do we'll use the same example, so we'll do access allowed, and we will equal this to age is greater than 17. So this is our condition, so this has to be true. Okay, and then what we'll do is we'll have a question mark after this, and then we'll do something like true with a colon and then false. And then just to show it off, we'll just create an alert, and we'll pass in access allowed. Okay, so the way this works now is we firstly check if this condition is true. Okay, so I mean the best thing will be first is to create a age which is equal to 18. So we are checking if age is greater than 17. So this is true, so age is 18, so 18 is greater than 17. And now if this is true, then we will assign this value to true. Now if it's false, if this was 15, then we will assign this value to we will assign false to this value, because this condition here will be false. And we can test this out by just printing this. You can see that age is greater than 17, so we will return true to this access allowed variable that we have created. So what about if we want to add multiple conditions in this type of way? Right, so let's just let's do this all over again. Let's create a fruit, for example, and we will name this let's say banana. Right, now what we can do is let's do we'll do message is equal to. Now if we have multiple conditions, we'll have to put them all inside brackets. So then what we can do is we can do fruit is equal to, let's say we do apple. Okay, now if it's equal to apple, we will return, or we will store whatever we want to message. So let's say that we want to store, the colors. Okay, so let's do red. Let's do green here. So green. So if this condition here is true, we will return green to this variable here. Now if we want to have multiple, then we'll just have to separate this condition here with colons. So we'll just do a colon. Then we can just have another one. So if the fruit is equal to something like berry, well then we will return red. Okay, so if the fruit is not equal to apple, but if it's equal to berry, then we will return red to this value here. And let's say that we have another one. So once again, we'll have to separate it using a colon. And then in brackets, what we can do is we can do fruit is equal to banana. And then we will return yellow. And then all we have to do is just end up with a semicolon. And we can just create an alert. And we'll just pass in message. And let's see what happens. So let's go back to our page, refresh this, if we are able to. Now you can see whenever we refresh, none actually gets, this alert never gets triggered. The reason being is, whenever we have multiple of these conditions, we need to add one final one which acts as an else. So just in case these are all false, we need an else condition to be triggered if just in case these are all false. So what we can do is we can add one more to the very end, and we can return something like I don't know that fruit, something like this. So I'll go over this again. So if this is true, then we will store this value green inside of message. If this is false, then we'll move on to the next one. We'll check if fruit is equal to berry. If it's not equal to berry, well then we will not store this value as message, we'll just move on. Now this final one, if fruit is equal to banana, then we will store this value that we passed in here as message. But let's say this is also false, so then we will move on to the very last statement here, and we will store this value as message. But because fruit is equal to banana, because this is true, we will be returned with yellow. So we can go back, refresh this, you can see we get an output of yellow because this condition here is true. So that was about it for this video. I hope this video was helpful and I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.